Hello everybody, Megazard here, back at it again to give you another very exciting video. And for today, yes, we're going to be talking about the Asus Rog Ally. Now, some people will honestly know me as a person that really loves Nintendo, like some Sony stuff, like my Spider-Mans and stuff, Ghost of Tsushima that comes out on the, the PS5 and whatnot though. Love console system and whatnot though, but I'm not really known for liking a bunch of PC gaming or whatnot though. And I don't know why, but just looking at the system right here, whenever it was first revealed, I was like, I like the sleek design. Yes, I've seen stuff about the Steam Deck and everything like that though, but for some reason, I just couldn't get behind the design concept of like how some of those face buttons almost look like they're about to fall off the side of the controller. But when I saw this one, the fact that it literally is a Steam Deck killer, like it's actually a little bit stronger than that system as well. And then I started to look at all the features, which I'll be talking about in today's video. I was like, you know what? I'm willing to take the plunge on this one because it actually looks like a very intriguing system now. So in this video, you're going to be getting a very unique perspective in the sense of how somebody that's not really in the PC gaming ecosystem is actually going to see how well does this device perform and whether or not it's actually very suitable for someone that just normally likes to play consoles. And will this convert me to a PC gamer? I don't think so, but we're about to find out though. So if you hadn't already done so, make sure you go and hit that like button, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight up into this video. The Asus Rog Ally. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the specs first, and then we'll go ahead and talk about the hardware and the gameplay and how it performs later on. So in terms of some of the specs, the operating system it runs off of is Windows 11. In terms of processing, it has an AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor up in there. Now, when you're looking at the system, in terms of the display, it has a 7-inch screen and it has a glossy display with that Gorilla Glass on there. It has a really nice sheen right there. Even if you have a little bit of fingerprints on the system, it's not nothing too hard to get like a cloth or something like that and wipe all of that off there for you. In terms of refresh rate, it does have a 120 hertz screen on there, so you can get up to 120 frames per second with some games. Not necessarily every single game, but definitely like your indie games and whatnot though, those are going to be the ones more likely to actually hit up on that refresh rate right there. In terms of memory, it does have 16 gigabytes worth of RAM. In terms of storage, it has 512 gigabytes worth of solid state drive there for you though. Now, in terms of some of the ports, obviously it does have the power button to your far right. Move a little to the left, you got the volume up and down controls. Next to it, you have the USB-C port right there. And then you have like a really weird, interesting port that probably most people ain't gonna mess around with though, but that is the ROG XG mobile interface, where you're actually able to plug in an external GPU up into the system, which will allow you to be able to get a little bit more of a power boost in terms of your performance, probably ideally to be used with another larger display like your TV or maybe your computer monitor, but I'll talk about that little thing a little further on in the video. Slide over there to the left a little bit, you do have your slot for where you can stick a micro SD card up in there. And then last but not least, you do have an audio headphone jack where you can stick your headphones, any kind of headphones that you have with just like a microphone on there as well as a headset. It works for all of that stuff. Now, in terms of looking at the very front of the console, obviously, yes, you do have the A, B, X, and Y buttons. I do like the fact that at least when you press on them, they feel nice, a little clicky or whatnot though, not too spongy, nothing like that. It feels just right in comparison to some of those other preview videos that you gotten before the launch of this system. So no complaints with me thus far. And it's not like it's too far to the edge where it's like it feels like your hand's gonna fall off or anything like that though. Then you also have on here your left and right asymmetrical sets. I always like them being asymmetrical a little better than versus just having them like how PlayStation has, where they're basically even on the same level. Then you also got your D-pad over there to the far left, so that's really nice right there. Not the greatest D-pad of all time, but it gets the job done. It definitely gets the job done though. Then obviously on the top parts you have like your view button as well as your menu button, and then also right below it on the right hand side you do have the Armory Crate button, which will actually allow you to bring up a a certain menu, and I'll talk about that here in just a second. And then on the left hand side, you actually have your command center. So let's go ahead and talk about the command center. This is the one thing I actually do like quite a bit with this system is you're able to toggle that button over, and when you press that button, it brings up like a list of shortcut commands that you're actually able to pull off. So when you first click on the command center, it brings up a menu of buttons that you're actually able to go through and tap on, whether you're touching on the touch screen or just toggling with the D-pad or the sticks or whatever though. And the first thing you see is a operate mode. So it is interesting with this system, it allows you to toggle between 3 different major modes, and that determines how many watts is actually, you know, running through the system in terms of operating, and that kind of determines how many frames per second, how strong your resolution will be in terms of like the performance for the whole entire system though. And obviously, I think the one major thing that a lot of people have been talking about is battery life. The battery life isn't super great. Yes, it is great if you're playing a bunch of emulated games, but if you're talking about AAA games, that's when you kind of notice your battery might only last somewhere in the range about an hour or 2 hours. But for, at least for me personally, I don't normally like to game on this thing for like well over like 2 hours or anything like that. So at least with me and my kind of preferences, I don't have that issue. But for a lot of other people, and I still wish the battery life still lasted a little bit longer with the big AAA games, it is what it is though. But you can toggle it between silent mode, performance mode, as well as turbo mode. So those are your 3 interesting options right there. Silent being 10 watt, performance being 15, and turbo being 25. Interestingly enough, if you do happen to plug this into your power brick, or if you happen to have like one of those official docks where you're actually able to showcase off your screen for the Ally onto like your bigger display, whether it be a computer monitor or a TV, you can actually increase that 25 watt turbo mode up into a 30 watt turbo mode. So you can get even a little bit more extra performance out of there. Toggling over to the right, you got the gamepad control mode. You can have different gaming profiles. So depending on what kind of games you have, you can have like different controller setups for it though. Keyboard, and this is just some of the stuff I have on my thing, but you can go through and customize this whole layout for Command Center. You can bring up options that you want to have or options that you don't want to have. Real-time monitor, frames per second limiter, that's really nice if you want to limit your frames to a certain spot so you don't have like your frames jumping all over the place. Yeah, AMD RIS and AMD RSR, so that way you can either upscale or make the sharpness of the different video that's coming through the Asus Rog Ally. You can adjust all of those settings for you, so it's really nice right there. You can either hit the show desktop, and then you can set your resolution to where it's like 1080p, because this is a full 1080p HD display, or you can set it to 720. And then also you have your refresh rate, which you can change that from between like 60 hertz to up to 120 hertz. Don't have a lot of games that can actually go too far above the 60 hertz. I think I have one Hi-Fi Rush, which actually managed to get a little high on the frames, surprisingly, without me having to mess with it too much or whatever though. But most of your simple games, like your indie games, those are the ones that's going to take advantage of it the most. Next, let's go ahead and bring up the Armory Crate menu real quick, because this is where I really like this modern convenience, and it kind of simplifies, you know, how you can kind of go through and open up your games while you're technically, this is still at the end of the day a PC, just a handheld PC though. But I really like it because when you bring up this menu option, it will sort all of your games out, whether it's like your Steam library, your Xbox library, Epic Games Store, etc. Whatever you want to put up in here. Yes, even if you have some games that you want to emulate, you can put basically any kind of program up on this thing that you want. This is really nice. It's really easy. You're able to toggle between any of these games. You can always press that Armory Crate button at any given point to actually bring up this menu right here. Not only can you just look at all the games that you have in your game library, but you can check out your settings, all the stuff I mentioned about earlier with the edit command center. It's over there on the right hand side, and you can go through and edit all of those things as well. You can even edit your operation mode, and you can actually change that over from, like, you know, your silent, performance, turbo that I mentioned earlier. But you can also go into manual, adjust your fan curves and things of that nature as well. Then you can also check on content, add different other platforms up in there. Yes, even if you like one of those people that actually like the use the Ubisoft launcher or whatever though, yes, you can go through and add all your different stuff, do all your system settings and all of that stuff, update the system, all in that content button. So really nice that they actually have a button that's just an easy straight hub where you're actually able to toggle between all these different things. Now for the most important thing that most of y'all are probably interested in is the games themselves. So I'm going to be running through, let's just go ahead and showcase what the system is actually able to do, because I know for many people out there, you know, emulation, you know, take it as you may though. I'm just going to show y'all what the system's actually capable of, but all these games I'm showing you are games I actually own in my own gaming libraries though. So yes, let's go ahead and jump. Obviously the most simple answer, yes, NES games. And yes, right now you're actually seeing me play some Tecmo Bowl right now. The good thing about most of these old school games, where it's like games that you might have been playing on the NES, Super Nintendo, or maybe even like the Genesis or whatnot though, all these emulated games are really nice on your battery. You're actually able to drop this thing down to, you know, silent mode or maybe performance mode, but you know, it's really simple. So you can actually leave it in silent mode to preserve your battery a little bit longer though. Really nice right there. Not noticing any kind of, you know, screen tearing, anything like that. No, obviously no frames drops or whatnot though. So yeah, so it's really nice in terms of playing NES games. Didn't notice any struggles while going through and playing this game. And honestly, shoot, man, if you haven't played no Tecmo Bowl, man, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing with your life. Probably one of the better NES games I actually had growing up with. All right, next you go see me playing some Mega Man X. So yeah, this is a Super Nintendo game or whatnot though. Yes, unfortunately, if I were to actually choose my Super Nintendo game of choice to showcase off, it would have been Yoshi's Island, the superior Yoshi game, and the game that they actually hadn't made, you know, a good Yoshi game since. But I'm not having those Nintendo Ninjas coming after me, so you know, you're only gonna see third-party stuff like this though. But yeah, as you can clearly see right now, not having any issues as of this moment right now. And I'm actually, for some of the parts of these videos where you're not actually seeing my hands on the actual ROG Ally itself, I'm actually using my Xbox Series 2 Core Elite controller right now though. So it's really user-friendly in terms of the external controls. You can almost plug anything into anything you can normally plug into a PC, but this is super user-friendly whenever you're actually using an Xbox controller for the sake of mapping and having all the stuff registered to the system, just being real nice there though. But overall, in terms of just running Super Nintendo games, no issue here whatsoever though. Next up on screen, you see me play an N64 game, particularly Pac-Man. Yes, I know, for an N64 game, you wouldn't think I would be kind of showcasing off this though, but most of the games in my N64 library is basically mostly first-party things. It was kind of hard for me to have it was either showcase off a little bit of this or like a Madden football game on the N64. Did anybody really play those Madden games on the N64? I don't know. I haven't, but whatever though. It's just a compilation of just, you know, a bunch of Bandai games or whatever though. But as you can kind of see right now, no issues whatsoever playing N64 games. All right, so now we got the simple stuff out of the way. Let's get to some good stuff. GBA. And right now you see me play Sonic Advance 3. Honestly, a really great Sonic game. It's honestly one of my most favorite. I would put this Sonic game up there with like Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Colors, Sonic Adventures 2. Like really some solid Sonic games right there though. Even though, you know, me and Sonic got a love-hate relationship, but I digress though. But overall, as you can see right here, running really smooth, no issues whatsoever playing this one right here. At first I was thinking maybe I would got some screen tearing or whatnot though, but actually, you know, it was solid. It was, you know, extremely solid. So, you know, nothing wrong with going through and playing GBA games. Yes, for all your Pokemon fans out there, yes, I tested it out. Yes, Emerald, Fire Red, all that stuff works really great, really well. And if you do happen to use like an emulator like, you know, RetroArch, programs all the buttons in there for you, so it wasn't like a headache for me to actually go through and set all those emulators and all that stuff up there for me though. But honestly, a really great game. I would show Nintendo DS next, but unfortunately every single DS game I actually had at the time of setup in terms of my library is primarily just mostly first party, so I don't have anything to really showcase off for DS though. But with DS, yes, everything does work fine. Obviously, when you have dual screens and stuff like that, you do have to play around with the settings a little bit in terms of how you want to kind of showcase off both of them. But yes, DS games also work just fine as well. And that's pretty much it in terms of all the emulation stuff I'm going to showcase off there to you though. But just for context sake, in terms of Nintendo games, you can go pretty much all the way up to the GameCube, Wii-ish, and not really have any issues playing, you know, most of those games right there. Yes, I tested it out with a couple of GameCube games as well. You're not really gonna have any issues on it whatsoever. In terms of Xbox side of things, you can go almost all the way up to Xbox 360 without really having any issues. And then also on the PlayStation side, you can get up pretty much almost all the way up to PS4. Some PS4 games might act up a little bit on you though, but for the most part, everything almost all the way up there, at least solidly through the PS3. You won't have really any issues running it on this system right here though. Now that we got most of the games that you might want to go through and emulate, kind of keep, you know, as a modern convenience, just all on one system, which I think that's what this system kind of excels at. You can kind of treat it as your all of one system. Putting those games aside, now let's go ahead and talk about some of these AAA games. I got 3 different examples I kind of go through and showcase all for y'all right now though. So first on the docket, yes, is going to be Hi-Fi Rush. In the top right corner, I did manage to pull up the real-time monitor. That way you can kind of see exactly how many frames I got going on the screen, as well as, you know, all the other performance things are going on, just for some benchmarks. That way you can kind of see what's going on. But for Hi-Fi Rush, I was playing this in 1080p, medium settings, setting it at 60 frames per second. That's what I had basically on those defaults though. And for the most part, as you can see right here, you know, everything's running pretty smooth, pretty fluid, not really having any issues. I think, especially for a game like this and its art style, you know, this game just really pops on the Asus Rog Ally. It looks really nice, really clean. I just like the fact that you're actually able to take this out on the go rather than just be kind of, you know, locked up in one area where it's just on your PC that's gonna be, you know, staying in your office or your room or something like that, or your Xbox Series X or S that's gonna, you know, stay hooked up to your TV like that. So being able to play this game on the go looks really great, really stunning. No issues here whatsoever. Next up, I'm playing Yakuza Like a Dragon. Now for this game in particular, I do have it set up to be, instead of 1080p, I have it set up to 720p, medium settings, and setting it up to 60 frames per second. Because at least with this game in particular, I did notice if I left it in 1080 trying to shoot for 60 frames, it's not a terrible bad experience or anything like that, but you will notice your frames kind of fluctuating anywhere between like 40 frames to like 45-ish. But if you want to get pretty much almost as close to solid to 60 as possible, if you just drop that down to 720 medium settings and whatnot though, it's pretty fluid at that point. So that's just the way I kind of like playing Yakuza, at least for this one particular game though. But as you can see on here, not really any kind of other issues showcasing off with me in this game though. But I really do like this game. It looks really great. It looks really stunning. And I'm like, oh shoot, yeah, definitely for games like RPGs in general, especially for your bigger AAA ones, you know, your newer releases, I think that one's actually going to really shine the most with the Asus Rog Ally, especially considering how you're going to be able to take this on the go, and you can just pick up and play at any given moment with this game. So honestly, really great stuff like that, and honestly having a blast going through and playing through the Yakuza series like this. Alright, and the very last AAA game I'll showcase off for you, just for the sake of just having something modern, something close to a brand new AAA release, even though it's been about a couple of weeks or so. Yes, I am going through and testing out EXO Primal. Now, the one weird thing I did notice about this, and maybe it's just the way I have my settings set up, the cutscenes, I don't know why, but the frames were set so low on this. I don't know, I might have to play around with the settings a little bit more, but when it came to the gameplay, it was actually, you know, really solid though. I did have the settings set for 1080p, medium graphics, and setting it for 60 frames per second. That was the target. However, as you're kind of seeing in the gameplay right now, it's shooting anywhere between like, I want to say about an average of 45 frames per second though. But when you're, you know, playing mostly, because this game is pretty much like almost like an online game at this point though, for the most part, even though it's only like running at like 45 frames per second like that, which I know you can get more frames if you drop it down to 720 though, but it's still a very solid fluid experience. And with this being a shooting game, you know, obviously you want that frame to be like as high as possible, but at least with my experience going through and playing through it, it's not that bad, honestly. Yes, you can toggle on some of your different menus where you could actually, you know, upscale it or whatnot, or make some of the lines and edges of the textures and stuff be a little bit more sharp. But you know, you can choose whatever preference you want on it though. But other than that though, it looks really clean. You can just look for yourself. So yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of my overall experience with the Asus Rog Ally. However, there is one complaint I will say, and that, you know, I would say it's a pretty fair complaint. And yes, I'm talking about the micro SD card slot on the top. I know there's been a lot of things that have been said on the internet, especially when you're going through and messing and tweaking around with the Asus Rog Ally. YouTube as well as Reddit, or especially Reddit, is going to be your best friend on this system though. So if you need any like expertise, tweaks, recommendations, stuff like that, I highly point you towards Reddit, because I learned quite a bit of stuff off of there though. But unfortunately, yes, there is a little bit of an issue with the micro SD SD card slot, and it has happened to me, yes, where the reader will actually manage to fail to actually read your micro SD card. It might be, and I don't know, there's like a definitive cause for it though, but I'm thinking it's probably the heat, because it's literally like right next to the exhaust vent right there. So it's weird because it's like the micro SD card, it won't work, and I was thinking maybe I fried my micro SD, but I stuck it in my laptop and my other devices, and it's actually just fine. So I'm thinking it's just the reader itself, and it just makes a weird compatibility match not working with the actual, you know, with the ROG and that specific micro SD card itself though. So that's my major number one complaint. I did have a 1 terabyte micro SD card up in the system originally though, but you know, it's not all lost or whatever though. You can, however, manage to actually put and swap out the SSD, because originally there's like 512 gigabytes of solid state drive up in here. You can pop off the back, replace that. It might be at the time of this recording about like a couple $100 or something like that to do so, buy a new one that's like a 2 terabyte. But yes, it is possible to actually upgrade your solid state drive up in there though. So I'm just kind of rocking off of my original 512 gigabytes right there. But that is just the number one concern that I would bring up with y'all, just being super honest, at least with that one right there though. Now, that's pretty much it in terms of ROG Ally itself. As I mentioned earlier towards the very beginning of the video, you can have an external GPU to plug up into the top of the system, which will actually be able to boost the power of the ROG Ally itself. And if you actually get one of those XG mobile ones, whether it's the 2022 version or the 2023 one, it's actually going to fully boost it to where you won't have those issues when you have to toggle between 720 and 1080 or whatnot though, because you're treating it as like a pure docked experience. Kind of think like a Switch, how, you know, you play mobile or on the go with like 720 on the Switch itself, but then when you dock it, you get up to 1080. Think of the same thing, but at that point when you plug that thing up in there, you can get up to 4K graphics. I am thinking about honestly considering getting at least maybe the 2022 model, because I think right now at the time I'm recording this, that one's actually priced around $800 or so though. But if you do get the one that's the 2023 version, it's like roughly about double, about 1600 or so. So yeah, so if you want to get a little more power out of that, get up to the 4K settings and all of that stuff, and get up to those crazy frame rates, like up to like 75 plus or anything like that, you can manage to get that external GPU, because you'll get some extra USB ports on there, as well as another micro SD card or just an SD card reader in general though. So yeah, so you can get that just to upgrade your power on this system and basically treat it like a full-blown desktop, with the option to be able to take this thing on the go. Basically like the superior version of the Switch, but all of the, you know, conveniences of messing around with a PC device. Because that's the one thing I really did like about this system. You can basically treat it like a Switch. You know, you can do it on the go, treat it like a regular PC because it has Windows 11 up on there, or dock it and treat it like a traditional gaming experience. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I personally like this system so much. So overall, you know, this system right here, really great. A really great system indeed. And I was like, man, I don't know, man. I was like, at first I was a little skeptical about this thing. But then, you know, after having it for about a month and a half now, you know, this system actually taking care of me quite well. It's really nice to be able to go through and be able to play all of the different games I had in my retro catalog, just all at the convenience of just being able to play it right here on the go, or I can just put it up on a simple display, easy to go straight into the HDMI and whatnot though. Really nice stuff right there. And then also be able to play some AAA games. For some things I would love to actually go through and play on the go, but because you know, like the PS5, you know, that thing's always tethered into your wall outlet. Well, this actually makes things possible. Yes, you might have to make a little bit of sacrifices, whether it's the frames or the resolution, unless you have like one of those external GPUs though. But I mean, this screen looks so great. The resolution, even on 720, looks really nice. I don't have many complaints on it right there though. But from somebody that's not really a PC gamer and who managed to pick this up right here, I can understand why people really do love, you know, messing around with PCs. The fact that you're able to actually go through, tweak your settings, you know, you can actually go beyond the original scope of where you normally have most of your games locked, whether it be a lock 30 or lock 60. You can play around with some of those settings like that. So I could see a lot of appeal in that. And honestly, they got me hooked in the PC environment now. It's just going to be another thing I have along with my Nintendo Switch and my PS5 though. This is definitely going to take care of the Xbox games whenever some come out. Like for example, Starfield, when that sucker drops out, yeah, oh man, it's a dumb wrap. I'm definitely getting on this one, at least trying it out on Game Pass though. But if you do happen to pick up this device, it is gonna cost you in the range of $700. That's the one that you're actually able to buy right now. However, that's the extreme model one. There is going to be a cheaper version one that's going to be like $100 cheaper, $600. That'll be releasing later on in the fall. No release date as of yet, just that window frame though. But yes, you're actually able to pick that up as well though. But I think that's pretty much it in terms of most of my thoughts on the Asus Rog Ally. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below, what all did you think about this system? Did you manage to actually go out and pick up this system? Like, I would be kind of curious to hear your thoughts on what you think about this system about a month and a half later. Or if you happen to be someone on the fence, or just happen to be watching this video, it's like, oh, this kind of actually intrigued me. Let me know if you have any other questions down in the comment section down below. I'll keep a close eye on it. That way I'll just go through and just see the comments. I'll try to give my honest answers of what kind of things I noticed at least this month and a half that I had this system though. But that's gonna pretty much do it in terms of this video right here. So if you really like this video, make sure you're gonna hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing. So remember y'all, until our video I make next, see y'all.